Between 1815 and 1870, more than 40 major cities across Europe and North America underwent near-identical civic redesigns. Public buildings appeared with marble facades, copper domes, and engineering specifications that required materials sourced from continents away. The official explanation centers on Industrial Revolution prosperity and civic pride. But in 1840, Philadelphia completed a waterworks system designed to supply 300,000 people. The city's population at the time was 93,000. Construction had begun in 1819, when fewer than 64,000 lived there. Paris reconstructed itself between 1853 and 1870 under Baron Haussmann. The project displaced 350,000 residents to build boulevards, sewers, and parks scaled for a population 3 times larger than the one that existed. Financing models assumed growth rates that wouldn't materialize for 60 years. London's Metropolitan Board of Works installed 1,300 miles of brick sewers between 1859 and 1875. The system was engineered for a population of 8 million. London had 4 million people when construction began. These weren't adjustments. They were foundations. This is a documentary exploration of architectural and infrastructural patterns between 1815 and 1890, focused on timing, scale, and resource allocation. It examines publicly available records, construction data, and civic planning documents. No conclusions are drawn. The evidence is presented as it appears in historical archives. The term Tartaria is used here not as a proven civilization, but as a modern interpretive label applied to certain infrastructural and architectural consistencies that appear across unconnected regions during this period. Its usage reflects ongoing discussion, not historical consensus. After the eruption of Mount Tambora in 1815, Europe experienced what climatologists now call the year without a summer. Crop failures led to famine. Economic contraction followed. Yet within a decade, cities across the affected regions began construction projects of unprecedented ambition. In 1825, the Erie Canal opened in New York. It was 363 miles long, required 83 locks, and moved 500,000 cubic yards of earth. Construction had started in 1817, during the famine recovery period, in a state with fewer than 1.4 million people and no industrial base capable of supporting such a project. The canal was designed for commercial traffic volumes that didn't exist. It anticipated a trade network that hadn't formed. When it opened, it operated far below capacity for more than 15 years. Manchester, England, built the first purpose-built railway station in 1830. Liverpool Road Station included warehouses, covered platforms, and freight capacity designed for industrial throughput the city wouldn't achieve until the 1860s. Construction began in 1828, before railways were proven commercially viable. The timing raises questions. Between 1830 and 1850, more than 60 cities in Britain, France, Germany, and the United States constructed central railway terminals using nearly identical architectural templates. Arched iron roofs, stone facades with repeating columns, platforms extending far beyond the number of trains in operation. Vienna's Nordbahnhof, completed in 1838, had 12 platforms. The city operated 4 train lines. The station remained partially unused for 18 years. Boston's Faneuil Hall was expanded in 1826 by architect Alexander Paris, who added wings, columns, and a copper dome. The expansion tripled the building's capacity despite the city's marketplace activity remaining stable. The design matched civic structures appearing simultaneously in Baltimore, New York, and Philadelphia. The architectural language was identical. The proportions, the materials, the scale. City halls, courthouses, custom houses, and marketplaces built between 1820 and 1860 across the eastern United States share floor plans so similar that blueprints from one could guide restoration of another. Charleston's City Hall, completed in 1801 but expanded in 1818, mirrors Richmond's Capitol Square buildings, which mirror Philadelphia's Civic Campus. These weren't collaborations. Communication between architects in different states was limited. Standardized architectural education didn't exist in America until the 1860s. Yet the buildings look like variations of a single template. In Dublin, the Four Courts building was reconstructed in 1802 after a fire, but its surrounding infrastructure, sewers, roads, gas lines, was installed between 1817 and 1830 with capacity exceeding the district's population by a factor of 4. Edinburgh's new town, designed in 1766, wasn't fully built until the 1840s. When construction finally accelerated after 1820, it followed the original Georgian plans exactly, despite those plans being drawn for a population Edinburgh wouldn't reach until 1900. The infrastructure anticipated demand that hadn't arrived. Prague's National Museum, completed in 1891, was designed in 1883 with exhibition halls sized for collections the institution didn't possess. Funding came from a coalition of sponsors whose combined wealth was insufficient to fill the building. It remained partially empty for 2 decades. Brussels built the Palais de Justice between 1866 and 1883. It became the largest building constructed in the 19th century, larger than St. Peter's Basilica. The city's legal system required a fraction of the space. Most chambers were never used. The projects weren't failures. They were accurate. The cities eventually grew into them. But the timing suggests the architecture knew something the economics didn't. Public records from this period show municipal debt levels rising in cities undergoing these transformations. Bonds were issued. Loans were taken from foreign banks. Taxes increased. Yet the projects continued. In 1851, London hosted the Great Exhibition inside the Crystal Palace, a prefabricated iron and glass structure assembled in Hyde Park. It was the largest enclosed space in the world. The exhibition lasted 6 months. The building was designed, financed, and constructed in under 2 years by a committee with no prior experience in such projects. The engineering required ironwork precision that wouldn't become standard in British manufacturing for another decade. Joseph Paxton, the designer, was a gardener. When the Crystal Palace was disassembled and moved to Sydenham in 1854, it was rebuilt larger. It served no specific purpose. It burned down in 1936, still underutilized. The construction itself seemed to justify its existence. Paris, during the same decade, demolished and rebuilt entire districts. Streets were widened. Buildings were replaced with uniform apartment blocks. The Haussmann renovations are taught as urban planning milestones, but the financial model never closed. Paris entered debt that wouldn't be repaid until the 1920s. The redesign assumed a tax base that didn't exist. Rent projections were based on occupancy rates the city wouldn't achieve for half a century. The Erie Canal returned to profitability in 1882, 57 years after opening. For decades, it operated as infrastructure without adequate commerce. Toll revenues covered maintenance but never recouped construction costs during the period its builders had projected. Yet while it ran underutilized, other canals were being built using the same financial assumptions. The Chesapeake and Ohio Canal began construction in 1828, designed to connect Washington, D.C. to the Ohio River. It was planned for 460 miles. It never reached beyond Cumberland, Maryland, 184 miles. The project consumed 22 years and bankrupted its investors, yet construction continued long after projected revenues failed to materialize. The Illinois and Michigan Canal opened in 1848 after 15 years of construction. It was engineered to handle freight volumes Chicago wouldn't generate until the 1870s. The locks were oversized. The depth exceeded commercial vessel drafts by 3 feet. The width allowed two-way traffic the region's economy didn't require. When it finally operated at capacity in 1882, it was already being replaced by rail. This pattern repeats across infrastructure projects in the United States and United Kingdom during the mid-19th century. Systems were built not for present need, but for a future that hadn't been formally planned. Railroad expansion in Britain followed similar logic. Between 1845 and 1847, Parliament approved 272 new railway acts. Most lines were never built. Those that were operated below capacity for decades. Yet the railway terminals constructed during this period were designed as if the collapsed projects had succeeded. London's King's Cross Station opened in 1852 with platforms for 12 lines. Only 4 existed. The building included warehouses, freight yards, and carriage facilities scaled for a network that wouldn't be completed until 1875. Manchester's Liverpool Road Station, the world's first intercity railway terminal, was designed in 1830 with commercial freight capacity that exceeded the city's entire industrial output. Warehouses sat empty. Platforms were unused. The architectural ambition preceded the economic justification. New York's Grand Central Depot, completed in 1871, replaced a smaller terminal that was only 16 years old and still functionally adequate. The new structure covered 4 city blocks and included train sheds larger than any in Europe. Passenger traffic didn't justify the expansion for another 20 years. But the building was constructed as if the traffic already existed. Between 1840 and 1880, more than 150 grain elevators were built across the Great Lakes and eastern seaboard. These were industrial structures, massive timber or masonry silos designed to store wheat, corn, and barley in quantities far exceeding regional harvest yields. Buffalo, New York, built the first steam-powered grain elevator in 1843. It could store 55,000 bushels. Local grain production at the time averaged 12,000 bushels annually. The elevator ran nearly empty for 15 years. By 1860, Buffalo had expanded its elevator capacity to 2.8 million bushels. Regional production had grown, but still represented only 40% of storage capability. The infrastructure wasn't built for current supply. It anticipated a network. Chicago constructed similar systems. By 1870, the city had storage for 12 million bushels of grain. Actual throughput was less than half that. The elevators were designed for a rail system that didn't fully connect until the 1880s. The timing suggests coordination, but no coordinating body existed. Gas lighting systems installed in London, Paris, Boston, and Philadelphia between 1820 and 1850 show identical scaling decisions. Networks were built to supply entire districts, but initial customer adoption was low. Gas mains ran beneath streets where most buildings weren't connected. In London, the Gas Light and Coke Company laid 122 miles of pipe between 1812 and 1820. Fewer than 4,000 buildings had gas service. The infrastructure was engineered for 40,000 connections. Paris installed its first gas mains in 1820. By 1830, the network extended across 8 arrondissements, yet fewer than 3,000 homes were connected. The system was designed for universal coverage that wouldn't occur until the 1860s. Philadelphia's gas works, completed in 1836, could supply 15,000 streetlights and 10,000 homes. The city had 4,600 streetlights and fewer than 2,000 gas subscribers. The gap between capacity and usage persisted for decades. Water systems followed the same pattern. Boston's Scituate Aqueduct, completed in 1848, delivered 7.5 million gallons daily to a city consuming 2 million. The system was sized for a population of 350,000. Boston had 136,000 residents. The Croton Aqueduct in New York, completed in 1842, delivered 90 million gallons daily. The city used 27 million. Reservoir capacity exceeded demand by a factor of 4. London's New River, expanded between 1808 and 1830, could supply water to 600,000 people. London's population in 1830 was 1.5 million, but only 200,000 had piped water access. The system was built as if universal coverage was imminent, yet full connection didn't occur until the 1880s. These weren't errors. The systems worked. They simply worked for a city that didn't yet exist. Municipal sewer systems show the same characteristics. London's Metropolitan Sewer Network, designed by Joseph Bazalgette and constructed between 1859 and 1875, included 1,100 miles of street sewers and 82 miles of intercepting sewers built from brick, with tunnel diameters large enough to walk through. The system was engineered for a population of 8 million. London had 4 million people. Bazalgette's designs included overflow capacity, secondary tunnels, and redundancy features that exceeded sanitation engineering standards of the time. The network could handle storm runoff volumes London wouldn't experience until the 20th century. Paris rebuilt its sewer system simultaneously. Between 1854 and 1870, the city installed 360 miles of underground sewers designed with gallery walkways, inspection tunnels, and capacity for future expansion. The system was sized for 2.5 million people. Paris had 1.4 million. Both cities built as if they knew growth was inevitable. Philadelphia's sewer expansion between 1850 and 1880 followed similar logic. The network was designed with trunk lines capable of handling waste from neighborhoods that didn't exist. The eastern grid extended into undeveloped farmland. Pipes were installed beneath empty fields. When development finally occurred in the 1890s, the infrastructure was already in place. Brooklyn's drainage system, engineered in the 1850s, anticipated the population density the borough wouldn't achieve until after consolidation with New York City in 1898. Storm drains were oversized. Main sewers ran beneath streets with fewer than 12 buildings. The infrastructure preceded the city. Whether this reflects inherited knowledge, coordinated planning, or economic models based on assumptions no longer documented, the evidence shows systems built for populations that hadn't arrived and commerce that hadn't formed. Municipal records from this period rarely explain the decision-making behind these scales. Budgets list expenditures. Engineering reports describe specifications. But the reasoning, the projection models, the growth forecasts, the financial justifications, those documents are often missing. What remains is the infrastructure itself. And it remains oversized for the era that built it. The term Tartaria appears on European maps between the 15th and 19th centuries as a geographical label for regions across Central Asia and Siberia. It referred to territories inhabited by various Turkic and Mongol peoples, derived from Tatar. Cartographers used it broadly, often inconsistently, to describe areas beyond well-documented borders. By the early 1800s, as colonial mapping improved and political boundaries became more defined, the term fell out of formal use. It disappeared from atlases. Geographic precision replaced broad regional labels. In modern discussion, Tartaria has been reinterpreted. It's used not as a reference to Central Asian geography, but as a label for architectural and infrastructural patterns observed across Europe and North America during the 19th century, patterns characterized by simultaneous appearance, identical design language, and scales that exceeded apparent economic capacity. The reinterpretation doesn't claim a hidden empire. It identifies a consistency. 3 models attempt to explain what's observed. The first is conventional historiography. Industrialization enabled rapid construction. Civic ambition drove projects. International expositions and professional journals spread architectural styles. Engineers and planners, connected through emerging professional networks, shared designs. Cities competed, modeling their infrastructure on successful peers. Overbuilding reflected optimism and access to credit. This explanation accounts for most of the evidence. It aligns with documented economic trends, known engineering practices, and traceable communication between municipal governments. The second model suggests inheritance. The infrastructure didn't originate in the 19th century, it was rebuilt, restored, or adapted from earlier systems. Population collapse, whether from plague, war, or climate events, left cities underpopulated relative to their infrastructure. Recovery involved reoccupying and repairing what already existed. The 1816 climate disruption accelerated this process, prompting coordinated rebuilding across affected regions. This model explains the oversized scale and the timing. It accounts for architectural consistency and the absence of construction records for certain foundational elements. But it requires an earlier period of development for which direct evidence is limited. The third model is systemic coordination, a deliberate, organized effort designed infrastructure for anticipated growth. This wasn't speculative optimism. It was planned expansion based on models, data, or projections that weren't publicly documented. Financing structures, trade agreements, and migration policies were aligned to ensure the infrastructure would eventually be utilized. This explains the synchronization. It accounts for identical designs across unconnected regions and the financial commitment despite unclear short-term returns. But it assumes coordination mechanisms that leave minimal archival trace. All 3 models engage with the same evidence. None is dismissed by the data. The difference lies in interpretation, whether the patterns reflect innovation, inheritance, or coordination. Return to 1816. Mount Tambara's eruption released enough ash to cool the northern hemisphere for 2 years. Harvests failed. Migration increased. Mortality spiked. Governments destabilized. Within a decade, the largest infrastructure expansion in recorded history began. Cities that had barely recovered started projects requiring resources they didn't possess, for populations they didn't have, using designs that appeared simultaneously across continents. The timing is documentable. The scale is measurable. The financing is traceable in municipal debt records. What remains unclear is the decision-making process that connected these projects. Tartaria, in this context, is not a claim of rediscovered civilization. It's a term borrowed from cartographic history to describe an observable consistency, one that conventional explanations address, but don't fully resolve. The infrastructure remains. The records exist. The gap between capacity and need is documented in engineering reports, census data, and financial archives. Whether this represents extraordinary foresight, inherited reconstruction, or coordinated planning is a question the evidence invites but doesn't settle. The buildings still stand. The sewers still function. The rail lines still run. And they were all built for cities that didn't yet exist.